When Adam and Eve partook of the fruit, they were cut off from the presence of God. Things were set in motion. Adam and Eve knew that uh, they had to transgress the law. They did not sin, but they knew they had to transgress the law in order to bring about the grand design, to bring about the human family. And it is a wonderful tribute to our parents, Adam and Eve, when we strive to do that which is right, true, and correct in the eyes of God. A common misconception is that Adam and Eve were sinners, that they were not right. In fact, there are certain religions that educate their members on this. In my personal opinion, I find it totally unconscionable to think of our first parents, parents that God gave us first as an example, to that He would give us purposely sinners, to give us something negative to look to. And that is such a narrow view of Adam and Eve. It is such a I don't even know how to begin to explain it. In contrast, a few years ago, as a religious leader in my community, I was invited to another Christian denomination in this town, invited to their Easter presentation, which was basically a rehash of the original sacrament that was passed, and then they go on to explain certain other things about who will be saved, etc., etc. It was really an opportune moment because in this community, in this area, members of my faith have yet to be fully accepted, and that goes both ways. When we find ourselves comfortable in a certain place, we often feel that it's difficult to reach out and to expand our horizons and to view people in new lights. And so I won't mention the other sect's name. Let's just say that one of the main differences between my faith and theirs is right there at Adam and Eve. They abhor Adam and Eve. They think they're sinners. They're disgusting. But my faith reveres them. So it's a stark difference there. But transgressing the law had to take place. It was the only way to advocate one of the first great commandments of God, and that is to multiply and replenish the earth. And so, when the fall happened, many changes took place. Not just them being cast out of the garden, but also there were physical changes that took place, not only of the earth and the surroundings, but there were physical changes like between man and woman, blood, things like that. The ability to multiply, for lack of a better word. Sex. All right, I said it. But they were very highly intelligent. And they had knowledge, great knowledge. And they came to the understanding that in order for the plan of salvation, the design of God to take place, that a law had to be transgressed. And therefore, God placed the tree and the fruit, and they partook. Now, what the great mechanism that takes place here is the fall actually put in place the grand majesty, if you will, of Jesus Christ. Because when man became cut off from the presence of God, an absolute infinite atonement and a healing, a salve, if you will, had to take place, had to be placed on the wound between God and man in order for man to return to God, which at heart is what every man and woman on the face of the planet who has ever lived, who is living and will yet live, desires most. And I don't care if you're a Christian or an atheist or whatever religion. At the heart, you want to return to the source. That is what we want. And that's where we get Jesus Christ. There's only one that could make that ultimate sacrifice. And it had to be a perfect being. And there was only one that could, and that's Jesus Christ. There's only one that could be strong enough, and it had to be a God, Jesus Christ. There's only one that could possibly place upon himself all the ills of the world. Not just all the sins of man, but all the ills of world, all the hurt, all the pain, all the injustice, all the physical ailments, all the mental ailments, all the stresses and pressures of life in all the ages, including all the pressures and stresses that we deal with today. He has taken upon himself all those things. So at his ministry, at his sacrifice, at his there is no good word for it. But if there is any one thing that we as all human beings should be most grateful for, it should be the atonement of Jesus Christ. Because without that atonement, without that everlasting sacrifice, none of us could acquire that which we desire most. And what is that I said earlier that we desire most? It is to return to the source, to return to the bosom of God. That could not have been made possible. And so it is important to ponder over our own misfortunes in life, our own sins, our own problems, our own feelings. Whether you are a religious person or not, we all come about those times in our lives when we sit and self-reflect and ask, basic questions. why did I do that? Or why am I compelled to do this when I'm pulled this direction? Who am I? Why am I here? Where the heck am I going? And these are all basic questions of humanity. They aren't something that derives from apes. These are God-given edicts of liberty. And that is essentially what the atonement of Jesus Christ is. It avails us the liberty and the eternal freedom to, through our choices and actions and thoughts, we can return to the Father, return to the source. We can grasp a hold of that everlasting prize that we desire most, the one thing that we fail to utter in the presence of our friends and family, and that is to return to our God, to return to our Maker, to return to that which we are accountable to most. So I am very grateful for Adam and Eve. They did a wonderful act of love for each and every one of us, the human family, and yes, even the whole earth, and most of all, an act of love to God. Because without that transgression, and it goes further than that, without their proper upbringing of their children, and there are many examples of faith, none of this would have been possible. The grand design would have been upset, and the earth would have been of no use. It would have remained, in a perfect state, but not a perfected state. I'm very grateful for the sacrifice and the atonement of Jesus Christ, because that event connects our hearts to it and allows us the privilege to ponder over it and reflect upon it as often as we wish. And as we do that, it brings us to new understandings, to new revelations, to new light, accordingly as we are ready for it. To me, the atonement, the plan of salvation, the whole design revolves around liberty, freedom. And that is part of what the Constitution of the United States was inspired to enact. That through your hard work and your choices, your labors, you can obtain the pursuit of happiness. A pursuit is a journey. And that is what we are all on, is a journey. And as we journey, we're going to come across obstacles and pitfalls. And there's a part in the eternal journey of man where a cliff was made. And that was part of the fall. And through the atonement of Jesus Christ, through his ministry, his example, his birth, his death, and his continuing advocacy on behalf of each and every one of us, he has placed himself as the bridge that crosses that great deep so that we can continue that journey. And that's a wonderful thing. I advocate everyone to ponder these things.